universe. The Legends of Grayskull podcast.
Legends of Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duch as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to L.O.G on MYP. As always, this is the mini-series where Curtis Ackerman and Matthew Duch discuss the Mike Young Productions 2002 He-Man and the Master Universe cartoon series, episode by episode. And today we've got a special treat here as we're up into the 20s, Curtis, and we are going after Buzz-Off's Pride.
Mm-hmm. That was nice. I know we've got kind of a new updated StreamYard, and it was interesting to hear the new intro there with my name included. That was cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we spent a long time on that, so that was spared no expense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh,
you ready for this? You ready for Buzz Off?
I have been so ready for this. I'm positively buzzing with anticipation right now.
Bad joke.
And this is one that I had to really look at, especially for our Power Sword ranking. I really had to dig. We'll get into that a little bit later, but definitely a lot of thought into this one.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting discussion.
All right, let's start off with the important details. So we got Buzz-Off's Pride. This is episode 20 of the series, written by Christy Marks and Randall Littlejohn, directed as always by Gary Hartell, story edited by Dean Stefan. Final draft was approved on July 5th of 2002, and this originally aired in the U.S. on March 22nd of 2003. Our wonderful Cartoon Network episode description. Buzz-Off must battle vicious giants in order to defend both a peaceful village and his pride. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting episode description.
I mean, so far what we've seen of Buzz-Off, and I know there's kind of like the running joke on the Podcasters of the Universe where they say, Buzz-Off's a jerk. And that really comes from 2000X. Like he's the least friendliest character of the Masters. Like he's the a lot of them are just bubbly, nice, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's not Buzz-Off. Buzz-Off is, and you can take that a couple different ways. I mean, one, it's kind of annoying to watch at times because of the way he acts, but he's probably the most realistic character out of the show because I see stuff that he does and I'm like, man, that's so annoying. Like that sucks that he does that. But then I'm like, that's probably what I would do too. Like that's probably how I would act in this situation. So.
And I think that's what we've pointed out thus far. I mean, obviously his biggest up until this point to me is Siren Song, where they kind of do the who's the traitor thing. And Buzz-Off's the one like, dude, I just joined up with you guys, but this is looking pretty fishy. Like he's the realist.
Well, even before that, like him and his issue with Stratos, and he was really quick to like, hey, I'm just gonna go after Stratos and his people. Like, no real investigation or anything like that, or benefit of the doubt. It's just like, dude, he like something gets in his brain and he is all action. He's ready to go.
Right. And Stratos was the same way. I guess I'm saying is up until now, like I'm not really seeing him as a very prideful person necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
I would say more quick to act without thinking or planning, which I think you see play out in this as well, but with the added part of the pride.
Definitely hot tempered.
Yes, short
Like
fuse.
yeah. Short, yeah, exactly. So that's the buzz off we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And of course there was obviously back in 2002 there was a speculation with the description there that there was the argument that maybe a pride was like a pride of lions, like it was going to
Like we
refer
were going to see a group of buzz offs.
right.
Gotcha.
Like, granted, I don't think that's anything, but there was that speculation there that maybe, just looking at the episode title and looking at that description, maybe it was something other than his literal pride, his feeling.
It feels like, and we'll get at the very end, we'll get to like the moral and stuff, but it feels like this episode was built as an entire moral type episode. Like, hey, we're going to take those lessons that we teach kids and we're going to stretch it out across the whole episode. Is kind of what it feels like. And then you get the other moral that we'll talk about.
For sure. So we'll jump right into it here. So we start off back in the Royal Garden, which is blooming now thanks to Mossman's Miracle Grow technology. Like,
and the one flower that Orko's taking care of.
Yep. So we got Orko. Orko is checking out. Actually, there's a little bee flitting around along the flowers, and Orko's got him under a microscope. And
which I think is interesting that they've got, like, in this world, they've got these bee characters that are like, humanoid characters, but they also have just regular bees.
Right. And I like the fact that the bee was colored like Buzz-Off, which I know Buzz-Off is pretty much bee coloring, but even like the bee's eyes were that same shade of green as Buzz-Off's.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of lends itself to my theory before that, like, the ambrosia is the difference. We had discussed that in Skywar, that like that was some ancestral DNA there. Gotcha. But in the Mystic Mountains, this group became these powerful warrior bees because of the ambrosia.
Gotcha.
So
makes sense.
But yeah, I definitely thought that too. And we got a little bit of a parallel there with Orko looking giant compared to this little bee under a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
And then Buzz-Off flies in because he's on his way to Veridus. Why he had to go through the garden, don't know. But that does allow him to pick up Orko as a hitchhiker. He says he's going to get honeyberries. We're introduced to the concept of Veridus. It's where the majority of the kingdom's food comes from. There's a magical crystal, the crystal of Priscinius. I forget how I said it.
Sure.
And it's
crystal. So
its magical glow acts like a super fertilizer, and so all their crops grow huge and bountiful. A real quick question for you, just because I was thinking about it. I know we've seen this a couple times in the series. Before this series, did you consider Orko a floater or a flyer? And does it bug you when he's able to like fly alongside Buzz-Off and Stratos?
I mean, I guess I never really thought of it. I've always considered him kind of a floater, but a floater that could, kind of move. I don't know as fast as them, but yeah, maybe that. I don't know. I just never really thought about it, but I always considered him more of a floater.
Me too. And I'm like I think of his thing as like a magical levitating type thing. And I don't know, it just kind of bugs me the way my mind works when he's able to literally fly as high or as fast as Buzz-Off or Stratos. Because
I kind of think of it like Doctor Strange and his cloak of levitation. Like he levitates, but when he needs to fly, he can fly too if he needs to. So you don't really see that too much, but yeah.
Maybe I think I need a limit where like he can't. I just don't like him being able to be up in the stratosphere like those two. Like
I think the idea behind that scene was that like Buzz-Off was on a mission. Like Buzz-Off is he gets his mind on something, he's gonna go. He's not stopping to talk. So if Orko wants to have a conversation, he needs to keep up with him. So I think that is true to the Buzz-Off character, and it may make it a little bit awkward for the Orko, but I didn't really think about it.
No, and I do like how Buzz-Off is in this opening. How he's like, yeah, I'm out of here. I ain't got time to talk. Then Orko catches up with him, and he's a little bit of the standoffish, but then at the same time, there's this little bit of like, you know what, I respect you, dude. Like, there's it's a really nice mix of the Buzz-Off for me, and you can kind of see where he is. He does seem genuinely happy to like have Orko along, but he's the type of guy who would never be like, hey, Orko, you want to go on a road trip with me? You know? So
yeah, it's like if your dad's working on a car and he asks you to kind of help hold the tools and stuff, but he's not going to slow down what he's doing in order to bring you along. Like either you keep up or you go away. But if you're going to be here, that's fine. You know, keep me company, kind of thing.
Exactly. Meanwhile, we see Veritas. There is a villager heading into the city to get food for his people. But he is stopped from crossing the bridge by a giant named Adzar, who tells the villager that the bridge is closed before scaring him away. Buzz-Off witnesses this and confronts the giant, who claims to be repairing the bridge, but ends up backhanding Buzz-Off and sends him through multiple trees that collapse on Buzz-Off.
They don't really ever say this in the episode, but I was immediately thinking, like, because the way that they talked about this crystal and how it keeps these things growing and ripe and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, is that why these guys are so big? Like, this particular giant, we're only seeing one so far, right? Is this why this giant is so big? Is because of that crystal? And I don't know that they ever draw that correlation, but
right, and that's
the thought that I was having.
I don't know if we want to get into it now, but I mean, we can't. The whole giant's plan eventually is revealed that they're stealing this crystal so that they can sell it back to the village for money. Yes. And it's like, really? Like, that's the plan? I'm with you. I was waiting for it to be something like, we need this. Like, even when they have the crystal, spoiler alert, in a little bit, like, you see them walking by their table and their fruit gets bigger. Like, that's on the table just from being by the crystal. Yeah. So I was with you. I was looking for something to be like, this crystal will help us because the giant food giants, or like some sort of correlation there.
The idea of holding someone or something ransom, but typically that is done stealthily. Like you kidnap somebody, know, and then you say, hey, I'm not gonna release them until you do this. This giant and potentially more, we'll see, are huge. Like, they don't have to stealthily take this crystal. Like, they could just go into the town and say, hey, give me your money, and get it that way. So it does seem like a little bit of an odd plan, especially for big guys. Like, you're not stealthily getting anywhere, and you could just take whatever it is that you want. So it does seem like a little bit of a weird story, but I don't know. Like even if it was, because we see him on the bridge and it's like, hey, like, I'm thinking, okay, well, if that's where Eternia gets most of their stuff and they control the stuff, like, they could, make money off of that. Like, hey, we're going to continue to sell the fruit and all this kind of stuff, but we're going to reap the profit. So then it's like, then it makes sense to me, like, because you're going to be keeping that long term and making money long term, not just stealing something to sell it back. But
we're just gonna literally sell it back tomorrow. That's like, I could even see them trying. And honestly, in the beginning here, because there is a conversation between Buzz-Off and the giant where he's like, yeah, I'm repairing the bridge in this, and like, there's kind of that question about, like, Buzz-Off doesn't act at first because he's like, maybe this dude is repairing the bridge. Like, just because he's a giant doesn't mean, like, I'm a bee dude. I got a floating trawling next to me. So at first there is kind of this, like, but there is this kind of like, there's that doubt that they're playing with, and then the giant just backhands it.
Oh man, bad. Like, just
like
embarrassingly so.
And like, Buzz-Off, when he's knocked through the trees and the other giants join Adzar, and you look and it pans, I mean, that's like a He-Man knockout there, where Buzz-Off is like buried under like 7 full trees.
Yeah.
Like, and even the
And
bust
he
out
did catch him off guard. He did sucker punch him.
For
so
sure.
I get that. But yeah, I mean, he walloped him pretty good. And I will say, like, at this point, and I didn't think about it at the time, but just I've watched this now because I watched it once regular. I watched another time to take the notes, and then we didn't record because there was something happened, and so then I had to watch it again. So I've watched it 3 times now, and as I've watched it, because initially like based on the response that we're gonna get to from Buzz-Off, I was like, man, Buzz-Off, why you got to be like that? But as I've seen it, and I see him get smacked through the trees like that, I'm like, I would probably react the same way that he does, which is just be so embarrassed that you A, don't want to talk about it, and B, you want to get back at him.
Okay.
So
see, that's where it falls apart for me, honestly. Like, because then he busts out of trees, He-Man style. He's literally holding an entire log above his head.
And the other 2 come up.
The other 2
more
come
giants.
up.
Yep. And they actually yell at the other giant. They're like, hey, like, don't you know this guy's a master? Like, you can't be attacking masters and stuff. And he's like,
right.
I don't care, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then so Buzz-Off's faced with the threat of 3, and he just turns tail. He Adams it. Which I'm like, I don't know. We've been in this situation before. I'm like, why don't you just go back and get the other masters?
Yeah.
And that's where
I think this is where the pride aspect comes in. Like Buzz-Off going back to the masters and saying, hey, I just got my butt kicked and I need help. It's, I don't know, man. It's just like he got embarrassed. He got embarrassed in front of Orko, who is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Orko is like a little kid. It would be like having, a nephew or niece or something see you get your butt kicked, and just the embarrassment of that happening in front of that, youngling. I think that's what's going on here. And to me, I didn't like, I'll tell you, the first time I watched this, I didn't like this episode. And the more I've watched it, the more I go, man, this is really some good writing, actually. Like the way that he behaves, the character that you see here, I think is pretty realistic, and it's pretty adult, actually, for a kid's cartoon. So
interesting. I guess I would have probably liked it more if I felt he needed, because to me it's like the giants are being so obviously evil.
Oh yeah.
So like if there had been a little bit more of that, like, no, we're in charge of the bridge, like this is our town. Maybe if the giants had held the town hostage and everybody's kind of like, oh no, those are our protectors or our rulers or whatever, and Buzz-Off is like, well, all right, like I guess I just needed something a little bit more.
But think about it from the master's perspective. Like, go back to like the Mechanic episode, right? And how he's feeling useless and all this kind of stuff. Like, as a master, you don't want to always have to run back and get He-Man or run back and get the other masters. Like, you want to be able to handle certain things on your own. And yeah, I don't think it's a smart move, but I think it's very human the way that he acts. So.
So the Giants are arguing about potentially drawing the attention of the Masters of the Universe.
Orko talks Buzz-Off out of attacking, and they start heading back. Yep,
they head back. The Giants are arguing with each other, saying the idea was just to keep people off the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide that the best way to do that is to destroy the bridge, which absolutely. So with the bridge destroyed, Buzz-Off and Orko return to the Royal Gardens. This is where Buzz-Off is just ticked. He is just full out throwing a little hissy fit, and he blasts a random tree, which Adam and Cringer happen to be sleeping on the other side.
Luckily, Mossman wasn't there.
Luckily, that tree was thick enough that Stinger didn't go through the other side, or else we would have ended the series right there.
Didn't even think of that. Yeah,
Skeletor wins. Adam wakes up and sleepily asks Buzz-Off what he's doing there. He thought he was going to Veritas for some honeyberries.
Mm-hmm.
Buzz-Off says that they weren't ripe Orko's about to pull an Orko and tell Adam what really happened. You'll never guess who He-Man really is. No, wait, that has nothing to do with
Not
this.
this one. Yeah.
He's about to tell him what Buzz-Off really did. And Buzz-Off stops him and just tells Adam that the honeyberries were not in season. To which Adam replies, I thought the crystal made everything be in season all the time. Like,
right.
Again, like this crystal is pretty powerful. It seems like there could be some good things to do with it other than ransom.
And that's when Buzz-Off kind of pulls Orko to the side and is like, like, you're not telling anybody anything. Like, keep your mouth shut, basically.
And another, kind of put that in your back pocket for when we discuss the moral segment later, but we've kind of got a, what do you do when an older person tells you to keep a secret, even if you know other people should know about it?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's some lessons in this one. So, Buzz-Off makes Orko swear that he'll keep the confrontation secret, claiming that he wasn't beaten by the giant, but he was sucker punched, which he was. Like, he absolutely was. Shortly thereafter, Man-at-Arms is informed that the bridge to Veridus has been destroyed. Adam is surprised that Buzz-Off didn't mention.
News travels fast, by the way. Like that got to them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
everything happens very cartoonishly fast here.
Yeah.
So they get back. They hear the bridge is destroyed. They ask Buzz-Off about it. He says, nope, everything was fine when I was there. But he does say that he will help, that he will go with them and help them catch the guys that are responsible for this, which Man-Arms questions. You know, we don't know why the bridge collapsed.
Yeah, it could be natural disaster. Who knows what? Yeah.
Yep. So we got Man-at-Arms, Ram Man, Adam, and Buzz-Off head into Veridus. At that same moment, the Giants put their master plan into motion. After all this plotting, planning, sneaking, the subtle destruction of the bridge, they run straight at the front gates with a gigantic battering ram. Which the gate wasn't even closed when they started. They only closed the gate because they saw three giants
coming with
a battering ram.
Right.
So you kind of get the impression if they had just walked up, it might have been okay.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to your point earlier, like just because they're giants doesn't mean that they're necessarily up to something nefarious. So,
right,
you know,
unless they're running at you with a giant battering ram.
So, like, even when Buzz-Off saw him and he kind of had pause, like, well, maybe they are supposed to be here. Like, if they just walked up to the gate, probably no issue. So.
Right. Even the merchant or whatever on the bridge in the wagon, like they talked,
right?
And he sent him away. He was rude, but like he wasn't. It wasn't
like, why is there a giant on this bridge? Like,
right? Yeah. Or even the giant wasn't like, "I'll smash you if you don't leave." Like, no, he's just like, "Bridge is closed. All right, you got to go." Like, I don't know. It's just weird. And then we do hear someone inside say something about my enemies. So there might have been a bigger background here.
Maybe.
I would have liked to see more of that.
The whole poor plan about stealing and selling it back, the whole like charging at them with a battering ram when the door is open. I can, in my mind, because it's a kid's cartoon and I'm trying to make sense of this, I can in my mind say these are just big dumb oafs. And so it's just poor planning on their part. And when I do that, then I don't have to say it's bad writing. So that's what I choose to say is these are big dumb giants that are just trying to make a quick buck. And that is the way that the plan that they came up with. It may not be the best plan in the world, but that's what they came up with.
Right.
So
luckily at that same time, we also have everybody flying in on the Wind Raider alongside Buzz-Off flying himself. Man-at-Arms tells Adam that he needs to find He-Man. Him and Ram Man jump out and confront the giants to protect the crystal. Duncan tries to get a hold of Buzz-Off to help them protect the crystal, but instead he decides to go after the giant that sucker punched him.
He's on a mission.
Yeah, which and Adzar has a good plan here where he takes off into the forest in order to help split the forces. So that's like the Giants bounce back and forth between, actually being, I wouldn't necessarily say smart, but at least
I think strategy, fighting strategy, or
right.
Separating them, getting the guy to chase them, separating their forces.
Yep.
And even like at the beginning of that encounter, Man at Arms is telling Buzz-Off like, "Hey, calm down. Let's come up with a plan." And Buzz-Off charges in, which then leads him to like smash into a building because the giant moves out of the way. So he's immediately like causing damage in this town that Man at Arms was trying to avoid. But yeah, he's just hot tempered at this point. He's just out for revenge, and he doesn't even really care about the other two giants because they're not the ones that embarrassed him. He just wants the one guy.
Yep, exactly. It's personal, and this is where it's really this is where the pride I'm seeing it. Like this, I wasn't in love with the setup. That's obviously been clear, but here is like, okay, like this is where this feels Buzz-Off.
Yeah.
Like he is so intent on, I'm gonna, keep my name here by settling the score with you, that I'm forgetting about the big picture.
This is like one of those arguments on social media that nobody wins. You
mean all of the arguments?
Yeah. They just go back and forth. And it's like, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and be like, okay, yeah, that person embarrassed me, whatever. I'm going to move on with my life. But he doesn't. And it's, those things can be hard. It can be hard when somebody, makes you look bad in front of others and hurts your pride. But yeah, he doesn't handle it the best way for sure.
For sure. So we got Ram Man and Man at Arms trying to protect the crystal. Even here, Ram Man launches himself at one of the giants, and the giant's able to step out of the way, making Ram Man go into the wall. Like they are good fighters and everything. They're working towards the crystal. He-Man shows up. And even he's having a tough time because these giants are destructive. We've got lots of scenes them falling into houses. They knock down the water tower, and He-Man is forced to help defend strange looking children instead of protecting the crystal.
So one little note on that, like, I don't know much about Eternia in terms of, how they get their food, their water, whatever. But I'm assuming if they have a water tower, that is their source of clean water. And so the water tower is and instead of like trying to catch it, stop it, save it, He-Man just destroys their source of clean water. So I don't know. Like I'm just sitting there watching that. I'm like, well, that's because
that's one that I was going to bring this up too. So I forget which giant it was, but one of the two remaining giants like knocks the water tower down to where it's going to fall on a kid. He-Man jumps in front and like shields the kid, and the water tower falls on top of He-Man.
Right.
But it's still intact. They knock it over. It falls on its side on top of He-Man. He-Man picks it up and throws it back at the giants, and that's when all the water explodes out of it.
Correct. Yes.
I'm like, take your cup, knock it on its side, but everything stays in it, and then when you throw it back at somebody, that's when everything comes out. But yes, it is He-Man that does that instead of the giant.
Mean, it's like if he saved one of those kids, like the giant threw the kid and he caught the kid and he saved him and then threw the kid back at the giant. like okay, you save the kids, you save the water, and now you're going to destroy their source of water. So I don't know, but I just thought that was humorous.
The giants are able to gain the upper hand by this. I like that the crystal was up high enough to where the two giants had to get on each other's shoulders in order to reach it. That was a nice touch. And there's some stuff in here, like we said, with the giant stature, with Buzz-Off being a bee, Orko and the bee in the garden. Like there's there's some parallels that are like almost there, but they don't quite come through. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I feel like there's a version of the story that really hits these kind of parallels home, and it's just a banger of an episode.
I think it's probably just hard to do in a 20-minute segment. You know,
it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
But then Buzz-Off, finally kind of works his way back around and.
Well, first, I like with Buzz-Off. So he's chasing Adzar,
who's taunting him the whole time.
It was just taunting. This giant has the upper hand because he knows he's in his head.
Yep.
He takes him outside of the village to this big forest with trees tall enough for the giant to blend into. And then as Buzz-Off is flying by, he knocks this tree down that literally just acts like a fly swatter and takes Buzz-Off to the ground and traps him. I'm like, that's brilliant. But this is the same dude who grabbed a battering ram to charge through an open door, 10 minutes ago.
Fighting strategy is his thing. Breaking and entering and scheming is not his thing.
Oh, it's just so weird. But yeah, so then Adzar escapes. The other two giants grab the crystal. They take off. And Buzz-Off finally frees himself, heads back to the village, and sees all of the damage. The house is
Man-at-Arm points out to him, kind of like, you should have been here. Explain that to all these people, which Ram Man is a little upset as well. Like, saying like Buzz-Off could have prevented this kind of thing. So, which I mean, and yeah, he shouldn't have ran off. He shouldn't have chased that guy. But keep in mind, if Buzz-Off stayed there, the other giant probably would have stayed as well. So he would have still had his hands full, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't see that fight going much different, even with Buzz-Off.
No, they put a lot on Man-at-Arms and Ram Man put a lot of blame on Buzz-Off in that situation, which he didn't do the right thing. But I don't know how much different it would have been either way.
Yep. Reluctantly, he tells them all about his previous altercation with Adzar, fueling his desire to settle the score. He-Man reminds him that a true hero doesn't fight for pride or revenge, but for justice and kindness. Until next time. Oh, wait, no, that's not the end of the episode.
And this is where I've got an issue. So and I'm really trying hard to give this episode the benefit of the doubt, and I'm trying to look through it through a different lens. Because I did not like it the first time I watched it. I tried to give it more of a chance, but in this situation, you kind of see this moment where Buzz-Off realizes, hey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have handled it this way, whatever. I went in, without a plan. I went in half-cocked. So what does he do? He turns around and goes after the Giants by himself, half-cocked again. And it's like,
kind of.
but he doesn't like take anybody with him. He doesn't create a plan. He doesn't he's just like, now at this point, he's not doing it, we think, emotionally. We think he's going to try to rectify the situation and a little bit more level-headed, but he's still going by himself. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And the funny thing I found is, cartoon logic. Like, we immediately start seeing like the vines are wilting. Like, there's not even just destruction, but like the crops are literally dying.
Yeah.
When the crystal's been gone for like 30 seconds. Which is interesting. It's like I get it's kind of Miracle Grow effect, but like if I stop watering my flowers for a day, they're not going to instantly be like. So
I'd like to add something here, because at this moment I'm thinking, if the crystal had that much of effect on the crops so quickly, what kind of effect is it having to the giant that's holding it? Right? Like, are we going to see, like, as this next encounter takes place, are the giants going to be bigger, faster, stronger, have, other abilities? Because clearly this crystal has some very intense powers.
I will say, though, but the humans, the Eternians that are in Veridis aren't any bigger or stronger.
Gotcha.
So
and that might be in my brain just from the original, seeing that first giant on the bridge going, hey, has this crystal had an effect on the people around it? But yeah.
And that's my thing. It's like, and that's what I was looking for. Like, for there to be that payoff of this is why they wanted it. Like,
Yeah.
this is what.
Similar to what you were talking about with the ambrosia,
Right.
like how it had the effect on, the bee people and stuff. Like, did this crystal have an effect on, whatever? But apparently it doesn't.
Right.
Apparently
Were
it's pretty much just crops.
I mean, and you could
So.
even say, like, you have the whole thing with the bridge at the beginning. I mean, these giants are monstrous. They're different colored skin and everything.
Mhm.
Maybe they were trolls, and then by being around Veridis, they grew into these giants.
Yeah.
And so now they want to use this crystal to turn the rest of the trolls into giants. Like, and that's what I was talking about at the beginning. Like, I just want something a little bit more than, yeah, we're gonna sell this back to them tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw them, I was like, okay, well, they're kind of unique colors, similar to kind of what we saw with Tuvar and Badra.
Yep.
Like, maybe they're those kind of whatever races those guys are, and the crystal has just made them bigger, kind of thing. So
no, that I would have loved that. Put in just a little bit more of that story element into here would have been amazing. So Buzzoff flies off. He locates a giant shack where the trio are laughing over the victory. This is where we find out that their master plan is just they're going to head back to the village tomorrow and get their ransom. Yeah. Buzzoff flies in, demands the return of the crystal, and a fight begins. Adzar again tries.
The giant now is trying to taunt the heck out of him again, and Buzzoff is just not having it.
Here's where he's learned his lesson. He just. It's Marty McFly at the end of Back to the Future 3.
Very much. Nice reference.
I know,
I like that. Yeah.
You chicken?
Yeah.
And
Very
so,
good,
so
dude.
Buzzoff is
impressed.
able to just smile. And he even says, I'm not here for the fight. I'm here for Crystal. So this is where we realize that his whole purpose has shifted and he's not looking for the revenge. Now he's good. And there is a fun little sequence, and again, it's like this feels like the sequence that the whole episode was building to, because you've got Buzzoff, regular B-sized, in a giant cabin in the woods with 3 giants, and they're trying to swat him, and they're everything. He is able to catch the crystal when one's throwing it to the other, and I feel like this is one of those scripts where they're like, imagine Buzzoff facing giants, and he looks like a regular bee, and they're swatting at him. And kind of the whole episode was built around that idea.
Yep.
They block off all the windows and doors, forcing Buzzoff to fly through the chimney to escape onto the roof. He gets pretty suit covered, and he's choking for a minute, but he's able to shake it off and happily flies back to the village. As the giants run out of their cabin, see him flying off, and that is the last we ever see of the giants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He returns the crystal to the village, much to the happiness of the villagers. He refuses to accept any kind of reward for his actions, but he does finally get to purchase his honeyberries for his queen.
Mind you, the village that has a busted door and a broken bridge in front of it.
Right. Busted door, broken bridge, in ruins. Like, why are the giants not just coming right back? Why did they not just, like, they see Buzzoff flying, they know he's going back to the village. Why did we not just go grab our battering ram again?
This I cannot explain to you.
And head back out. Like, there is nothing stopping them. Even if they're like, you know what? I'm kind of tired. We got that fruit on the table did grow to giant size. Let's eat. Let's take a nap. But, like, those dudes are going to be right back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, he delivers the honeyberries to his queen, who tells him that he should not have gone to such trouble. He bows to her and insists that it was no trouble at all.
Yep. Now, I will say, kind of going into the moral section, like, you do see He-Man working on fixing the village and stuff, so that's cool.
Right.
So there is, it's not like they just left it like that. But then he gives the moral, which of course has, to do with pride and, not letting it get to you and not seeking revenge.
Right. Being thick-skinned. Don't worry about the bullies. Like, be confident, pride is your downfall. We could even go with, don't, even if
Intimidate
somebody
kids.
older tells you not to say something, if you know you need to say something, say something. We could even do maybe a helping the village, when in times of trouble, everyone must come together and help when natural disaster strikes. I mean, any of those morals are going to be great here.
Or kind of partnering with others and multiple heads are better than one. Don't go into a situation by yourself when you have friends available.
Right. Friends and family.
Yep. But no, none of those. The moral is be kind, honest, helpful, and fair. Do that and you'll be my hero.
Well,
I mean, we see He-Man fixing the village, so we know that this moral was part of this episode. We've had discussions on where these things filmed and written in a different time, and maybe they didn't know it was going to go with a certain episode. Like, we know it's tied to this episode. He's fixing the village, but the moral has nothing to do with what we just watched. So
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could make slight arguments, which I'm not even, but yes, honest, helpful, fair, kind, yes, absolutely. But there's so much better to pull from here. And that's kind of the thing for me. This episode feels the most cartoon of any of the episodes we've done so far, where this does feel like a traditional 80s, 90s one-off cartoon setup.
Explain what you mean by that.
Where it is just a
standalone, not part of the series.
It's a standalone, but it's so there's so much moral baked into the story that is the whole story.
Okay.
Where it's like it doesn't contribute anything to the overall overarching series.
Gotcha.
And I know that we have kind of set up Buzz-Off to be hot-headed and everything, but not as much as this to me.
Right.
To where you just take this one character and for an episode, he is this angry, prideful guy. And he goes through this journey of ABC, I
will give you that as far as it's one of the most disjointed, kind of the storyline has plot holes. It does feel like a one-off that's not really tied into the main story of what's been going on with these characters, all this kind of thing. I do think that the aspect of dealing with embarrassment and pride and revenge is a very adult concept that they tried to throw in here, which I do like that aspect of it. I just feel like the overall story is very disjointed and has a lot of problems. Yes. So it's kind of both. It's kind of like in one aspect, this is very kind of kids cartoonish, and then the other aspect is you try to interject some very adult themes into it as well. So
and which I feel that especially our Saturday morning cartoons, our weekday afternoon cartoons of the 80s did that, where they would try and put those themes in there in a way for kids to learn from it, and that's what I'm saying. Like this episode, I feel out of all of them, you could take and you could make it a Filmation episode. Yeah. And it would fit right in. So I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. It feels very different from what we've gotten from this series thus far.
Totally.
And honestly, the animation for me, I felt was really off. There's lots of points where characters are just, especially the giants, are just standing and staring. There's no they'll run out of the cabin and then they just stand there. They're on the bridge just staring at Buzz-Off. I don't know. It felt really it wasn't that off model animation, but it felt very stilted. It wasn't as fluid as we get in a lot of the episodes.
I could see that. I thought the fight scenes were pretty good. As far as in the town, and then even in the last fight scene with Buzz-Off and them kind of in that place, because it's a locked room, it's a locked building. He had to escape through the fireplace, right? And it's kind of one of those, that Daredevil fight scene in the hallway, or Deadpool and Wolverine fighting in a van. Like, it's that enclosed space where you're trying to fight and make these things happen. I think they did a good job in those spaces, but yeah, there's other parts where it's not as good.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that. I love when they're destroying the bridge.
Oh,
You can feel those hammers coming down and just pieces flying everywhere. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's not bad animation, but there's a lot of points where it's kind of like they pulled up on the animation. Like, that's good enough. Just have it freeze there instead of continuing through with the fluid motions.
Yep.
All right. So, how about some curious translations?
Real
Not
quick,
yet.
One more thing. I'm sorry, I wanted to add, because I have to kind of throw this in on each episode. Is it an episode where they had to form Voltron at the end, and He-Man had to come and save the day? And this is not one of those. This is not one of those where He-Man had to come in and like, you tie up all the loose ends by just bringing in He-Man and he fixes everything. So I do like that aspect of it, because that is something they lean on quite a bit, and they did not in this episode.
And I'll give you. My cat's not a fan of this episode. I'll give you one more.
She is,
especially with me. This is a character spotlight episode where they do allow the character to finish the story. Yeah, it's not Mech Lament where He-Man's the one to get rid of the amulet. Buzz-Off is allowed to finish it. Really, you don't. He-Man really doesn't even contribute, honestly. Like, he's still beaten by the giant. I think you could have even left him out of this one, honestly.
Well, and destroyed their water supply. So yeah, they might have been better off without him there. Little side, completely unrelated note. As a kid, I thought that all cats were girls and all dogs were boys. So anytime that I see a cat like that, I will refer to it as a she. Even now, I don't mean to, but just so if your cat is not a she, I'm sorry, but that's just how my brain works. So.
She is a she, and she is a calico, and I have heard that all calicos are female.
Well, there you go. Now I know.
I could be wrong about that, but
cool.
Yes, Willow is definitely a she.
All right. So from Buffy, Willow, or from the sci-fi show movie?
I don't think either.
Oh, really?
Because my wife named her, actually. And
I would ask. I bet it's from one of those two.
It's definitely not Buffy, because that's what I brought up.
Okay.
I don't think she's probably ever seen Willow, the movie. So
really? That's weird. That's an interesting name to come up with without those two references, but okay. All right.
I'm about to ask her. Stay tuned next time.
Yeah.
All right. Some curious translations. In Germany. No, I'm going to do the Italy one first, because I think Germany's better. And I want to end on it. In Italy, this was Buzz-Off contro I Giganti, which is Buzz-Off versus the Giants.
Okay.
It works. In Germany, this was Was auf der Brücke geschah? What happened at the bridge?
That's like a very small portion of the show, but
it sets everything up. That's the we don't.
Right.
It's I know what you did last summer. Like that. Technically, what they did last summer was like 5 minutes of the movie, but it determines the whole outcome of their lives. So
all right, I'll go with it.
Some trivia from Yuka's wonderful book, which again we are giving away at the end of the series. A copy.
To anybody but me.
To anybody but Curtis and Sean. We did talk about that. The three giants are named Asdar, that's the purple-skinned one, Belzar, the green-skinned one, and Chediz, which is the red-skinned. But only Asdar's name is ever spoken out loud in any of the episodes. Obviously, fans have referred to this trio either as the Mike Young Production Giants or the ABC Giants,
and we've never seen any of these three in toy form, right?
No.
Okay.
This is the first appearance of Queen Andrino. I don't think there's much.
Which that was, I know we didn't really touch on that, but that was interesting because I always thought that Buzz-Off was the leader of his people. Like he was the big guy, like he was the king or the, whatever. So to see him reporting to somebody else was interesting.
Yeah, and they've done that a bit in this. I kind of like it that not all the masters are like Stratos is the leader of his people,
Right.
but at the same time, it raises the question of like, how do you have time for your master's duty when you have your royal duties? So I like that Bezoff being a lord, like, that helps kind of be like, yeah, I'm important, but we've still got the queen there to run everything. So.
Yeah.
And it set up the great quote, which we skipped over completely, where on the bridge, when Buzzoff initially questions Asdar as to what he's doing, he goes, "None of your business. Now buzz off." He goes,
That was
"That's
awesome.
Lord
It's his
Buzzoff
name.
to you."
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Curtis. It's that time. Power sword ranking.
So
you want to go first?
I think I do.
Okay. Hit it.
I think overall the episode was written poorly. I think there's a lot of plot holes. There's a lot of just weird fast forward circumstances. The fact that the giants are on the bridge, and by the time they go to hit the battering ram on the door, Man-at-Arms has already gotten the news about the bridge and has already kind of mounted up the masters, and they're on their way to where they get there right after the door is destroyed, pretty much. Like, the whole storyline about them just trying to take the crystal and sell it right back. It's just not a great written story. That being said, I love the character aspect of it with the buzz off. I love the theme, with kind of the moral built throughout. And I love that he's able to finish the story himself without having He-Man just come and save the day. So, whereas if it wasn't for those aspects, I probably would give it a Havoc staff. I probably should go Cosmic Enforcer. I'm going to go one Power Sword, and I feel a little dirty doing that, but I do love the adult theme so much. It made me question myself, like, how would I react in this situation, and do I need to be less prideful? And for that, just the fact that it got me thinking about those things means I at least got to give it one Power Sword.
I like it. Yeah, and this for me, this is one like I've said already. This definitely felt the most Saturday morning cartoon out of the episodes. I still don't like them. I don't like the motivation of the Giants, and I don't like the motivation of Buzzoff. I think there is a really good story in here. Like you said, I think it needed a couple more script revisions. That being said, this is one where I had to look at what I had previously ranked some of these episodes, especially we're getting so deep into this. We're in 20 episodes now that I really wanted to take a look. So I was ready to give this one Havoc staff. Then looking at my list, the only Havoc staff I've given out so far is Turnabout. And then my Cosmic Enforcers have been Courage of Adam and Roboto's Gambit. So definitely right in there for me. But after talking to you about it, I am going to bring this up to a Cosmic Enforcer. I think it is a slightly better episode than Turnabout, just because it does has a bit more serious, a bit more weight to it. I do love the looks of the Giants, and I do love mostly how they're portrayed. They get stupid with the battering ram for a minute there, but other than that, so yeah, I'm gonna officially go a Cosmic Enforcer. It is there. So
Awesome.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's one of those episodes where I'm looking at it, and this could have easily been like a 2 Power Sword. Like it's got enough story potential there. It just they needed to do a couple more passes.
And I think you could say that about a lot of the ones that we've been critical of. That,
sure,
there's always been something. There's always been something where it's like, man, I could really have seen them turning this into a great episode, but they just made a couple mistakes here and there. Yeah. So
beautiful. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and leave us comments down below. You'll be entered into a chance to win that book that Curtis can't get. And then go ahead and like, share, subscribe. We really appreciate all of the support thus far.
I'm just gonna throw out there, like, also if you're in other like Motu groups or something, share there, because I was in another group that I saw this week, and somebody was talking about how they just got into buying some of the 2000X toys, and they're really kind of, and they had no idea that we were doing this. So it may not be for everybody, but I if you're in a Motu group and you're enjoying this, share it, because maybe somebody else will as well.
Absolutely. All right, thank you guys, and until next time, go watch Snake Pit.
Oh, come on.